Alright, welcome back to another objectively correct, not tier list. It's technically not a tier list because I'm not actually ranking things. Yeah. But as always, my opinions are objectively correct. You're free to disagree, but you're wrong. This time around, we are doing tabletop role-playing games, and I never really talk about TTRPGs on the channel. It was a big part of my childhood growing up. I started playing when I was very young. My uncle got me into like tabletop wargaming and tabletop role playing games. Yeah, yeah. But I never really talk about it. But the other day I was like digging through my boxes and my shelves, and I was like, I should make a video on this. So I gathered a bunch of like my rule books and whatnot. And I was just kind of going through them, and I was like, which ones do I really like and why? So I went through. Of course, this is not my entire shelves, boxes of of role playing games, but these are like kind of not quite a top 20, and yeah, it's 19 of them. And yeah, I decided to rank them based on all around good. Means like I like the system, it's fun to play, it's reasonably easy to pick up. Either the setting is good, or there's just it's maybe it's a more generic system that's just good for a bunch of different types of settings. Yeah, just all around good. Uh, Fun is like maybe it's mechanically clunky, maybe the setting's kind of bland, but the game's still plenty of fun to play. Mechanics is like there's something about it mechanically that I like. There's some really good systems out there. There's some really bad systems out there. My usual test for if a system is good is can I do it like 6 beers deep at like 2 in the morning? If I can't, then yeah, not a great system. Uh, Pugs, which is like if it's good for a pickup group, something you can get somebody into real quick, or something that's like real quick to start up and play. Um, like maybe one of your players brings over a new person and they're like, hey, mind if they sit in or whatever. And if it's one of these games, it's going to be real easy for them to drop a character in like 15 minutes or less, something like that. Setting is like the setting makes the system. Like maybe the system is a, a travesty, but but the setting itself makes the system good. Yeah. And we're going to start off with Seventh Sea, second edition. I know some people didn't like it, but I'm like, it's fine. Like it's a perfectly decent mechanical system. I'm a little bit disappointed that John Wick didn't bring the roll and keep system over from L5R. But other than that, I'm fine with it. I know some people were like, oh, well, you roll first and then you describe the action. But I'm like, just don't do that. Just like have your players describe what they're attempting to do and then roll and then describe the outcome. Like, you don't, rule zero, man. It's rule zero. Just like, yeah. But all in all, the game falls into the fun category because mechanically it's not the greatest. It's not like super easy to pick up. It does take some time to roll up a character and get into it. The setting's just it is Age of Sail, not Europe. It's Europe, but they just call it different names. Uh, yeah. Call of Cthulhu. So it's a Chaosium game, so the dice system is like medium tragic. It's not the best, it's not the worst. The Chaosium games, they're the percentile dice system for them. They're like medium clunky. They're not super easy, but not difficult. They're eh. But for Call of Cthulhu, of course, it's got to be the setting. It has to be setting. It's that 1940s, 1950s, 50s, kill fitting man, uh, 1950s, like noir detective style gameplay, investigating crimes that turn out to be linked to eldritch horror, finding missing persons, and it turns out they went insane and joined a cult or some shit. There's all sorts of cool stuff you can roll with that. Right, like just pick up any like HP Lovecraft book and like you can make a story out of it. Yeah. Dread. Dread has the best and probably only good system for handling horror, and I will die on that hill. It doesn't use dice, it doesn't use cards, it uses a Jenga tower. And if you want to perform an action, okay, pull a brick. You pull a brick and you place it on top. And so it's handled by Jenga rules. So early on in the story, things are pretty easy. They're, like, oh yeah, you managed to get away from the killer or whatever. If you're playing like say a slasher story scenario, that you're running away from Leatherface or something, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It starts off kind of easy. But then as the Jenga tower gets more and more unstable, it is a visual representation of the anxiety that ends up developing in this game. It is such a big brain move to put Jenga as the system by which you're handling and resolving issues. Because like at any time that thing can fall over, and yeah, plus you can also choose to like you can choose to push it over. It's like you sacrificing yourself to save everyone else, kind of thing. But yeah, eventually someone's gonna fail, and they're gonna die because of it. Yeah, Dread mechanically, that is like the biggest brain play for making a horror game that actually does have a level of anxiety to it. Yeah, it genius. Genius move there. Earth Dawn. Okay, Earth Dawn is an absolute mechanical abomination of a game system, but I love the setting. It is the step dice table and chart consulting, all that. Oh man, it has both feet still firmly planted in like old school role playing. Like in the old roots of tabletop wargaming where it's all charts and numbers and whatnot. It still has both feet firmly planted in there. But I think Earth Dawn would make an amazing setting for like a co-op multiplayer first person, third person, open world adventure game. So like think, Skyrim, but in the Earth Dawn setting. That would be amazing because it's such like a wacky, wild world, you know, um, with the like bone dancers and shit, where it's like you can take control of the enemy's skeleton, you know. Yeah. Um, but yeah, like think you start off in one of like, oh man, I can't remember what they're called. It's cairns or whatever, the giant underground fortresses that meta humanity survived in through the scourge. Where it's like Earth Dawn, back in the day, used to be entangled with Shadowrun, where like the idea of the ebb and flow of magic, where Earth Dawn is the previous world, is like the previous time that magic flowed, and how um, in Shadowrun magic we're coming out of an ebb into a flow. So the scourge is coming. In Earth Dawn, we're leaving a flow and going into an ebb. So the scourge is fading. Um, all the monsters of myth are like slowly disappearing, but they're still out there in the world. So there's like you could throw any sort of like mythological creature in there, and that's just one of the scourge. Um, But yeah, I think it could make an amazing setting, like an absolutely amazing setting. And yeah, man, big sad. Like the fact that they didn't see the success of like Morrowind and Oblivion and Skyrim and go, we need to put Earth Dawn in that. We need to do that with Earth Dawn. Like that's, mm, yeah. But no, setting, absolutely. Eclipse Phase. I don't know how popular Eclipse Phase is. I don't really hear it mentioned often. I can't imagine it's like super popular, but it is a transhumanist post diaspora science fiction. So humans have left Earth and are scattered around the solar system, and it mostly takes place, as far as I'm aware, if I remember correctly, it's all in the solar system. So you're not like going to other planets or other star systems or whatever within the context of like the setting, the main setting. Um, but yeah, it's just like adventures out in space. You could do all sorts of like weird adventures and uncovering like weird experiments gone awry and abandoned research stations. And you, I mean, you could be like a mailman for like you and your party could be like mailmen who like travel from station to station, delivering packages and then getting into hijinks when you're on there. And all sorts of stuff you can do in Eclipse Phase. Um, yeah, and works with the setting. Yeah, absolutely. It's setting mechanically. It's a little bit clunky, but it's not terrible. Fate Accelerated is absolutely pug friendly. You can have somebody playing in like 5 minutes. It does not take long. You hand them a sheet, you give them the basic rundown of like high concept aspects, and then have them fill out the approaches, and boom, you're ready. Like it's the fact that the rule book is like 40 some pages, you really don't, you only need like half of that, if that, just to run a character. It's real quick to get into. Absolutely pug friendly. Fate Core, however, is an all around real good system. It's probably my favorite for introducing people into role playing. I think getting people into like the idea of the high concept and aspects and interweaving them with other characters makes for really good role play incentive. And the fact that it's not super crunchy mechanically, it's not super gritty. Like there's not a lot to remember. It's okay. You roll your fate dice or your fudge dice, and like you apply your bonus and like any circumstance bonus. Yeah, and then that's it. Like there's nothing super complex about fate. It's something you can get into in like probably like 15-20 minutes, but it's all around such a good system. It's fun to play. It's got good mechanics. It's reasonably pickup group friendly, and it's just generic for like a setting. You can I like using the collaborative world building to make a setting so that like you get really good player investment. Yeah. Fiasco is another one that's super pug friendly. It's like if you got like the Fiasco book, just take it with you when you go to your game sessions. And if like somebody's gonna be late, it's like, want to do a quick game Fiasco? Yeah, you can do it like 30-minute game, and it's real fast. It's not really crunchy. It's got a very simple D6 dice system, and it's just fun gameplay. Like it's that caper. The entire tag is like capers gone awry, essentially, where you're playing a Guy Ritchie film. Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Rock and Roll, Snatch. You're playing in like one of those worlds where it's crime, coincidence, and like caper gone awry. Like Like you go to rob a bank and then something happens, you drop your gun, the gun goes off, it accidentally hits the dog of somebody important who turns out to be connected to somebody and then now they're after you and you got to escape the hitmen that are coming after you. Shit like that. Uh, yeah. Alright, I'm gonna have to reshoot that segment. Jesus, I was mumbling and mush mouthing and going on tangents and eh, let's see. Kudo. So Kudo is a game I'm not sure was ever really popular. It's another one of those ones. It doesn't really have an online community. There's not really there's no dedicated subreddit for it. And you'll find a subreddit for like something that has 10 followers, and there's nothing for Kudo. It is set in a future Japan, which is kind of under like lockdown. I won't go into the backstory. It has to do with like missiles firing at Japan and then disappearing and whatnot. And Japan basically goes under lockdown, nobody in or out. And so it's like future cyberpunk urban fantasy horror. So like you could play, say, some like a detective, and one day you might be investigating, say, disappearances, like people are being kidnapped and they're turning up mutilated, but their like organs are being harvested. So you got to find out, and it turns out to be like, I don't know, some serial killer. And then the next one, you might be doing like a paranormal investigation at a hotel where like people are dying mysteriously, and it turns out there's some evil spirit that you have to drive off. And then the next session, you might be, walking down the road and spot that some hacker has been, you know, messing with the displays on a bunch of vending machines, and they all have like hyper realistic cocks on them or something. You can play the game like a bunch of different ways, because anything that fits into like modern urban fantasy could fit, futuristic cyberpunk horror, like anything that could fit into like those genres would like work with the setting of Kodo. uh it was a really interesting book, and I was just picked it up. Mechanically it's a little clunky, as it like the number four, you disregard any roll of the number four. So if your dice roll a four, you ignore that one, as four, she is another word for death. So yeah, you ignore that. It's like a weird cultural thing that got brought over in translation, because it was originally done in Japanese and then was translated to English. But yeah, yeah, I would say that Kuro definitely makes it into the setting category. It's got a really great and evocative setting. L5R, Legend of the Five Rings. I love the roll and keep system. It might be my favorite dice system. It's like it's up there with like the Fudge or Fate dice system. It is really nice in that, unlike say a flat distribution system, like say something like Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or Call of Cthulhu, or let's say Numenera, or Rifts, or whatever, where you're rolling a single dice, you're rolling a bunch, and then you're keeping your highest rolls. So your players will almost always statistically roll above average. So there's rarely those like bum dice nights like you can see in other games. Like like if you ever played D&D and you had a night where you're rolling bad and you're like, man, I was rolling like shit tonight, man. Like, oh, I feel like I'm not contributing, or I feel like I'm like, it feels like your player is not, or your character is not powerful because you're just not doing anything. You're whiffing all your shots, or whatever. And with L5R, you are statistically most likely to succeed, but you can also kind of tune that from a GM's perspective to be like, okay, well, do I want this to be challenging? If so, um, let's kind of bump up the numbers, and your players are still going to be rolling well, but they're still going to have like those good dice rolls, but it's still going to be a little bit more of a struggle. Whereas like it's not that single dice roll. It's like, oh, I'm rolling a 5, 3, a 10, a 9, a 6, or whatever, and you're just doing nothing. With L5R, I think the roll and keep system is like really a genius mechanic as well. Um, it's it's just one of those it's one of those mechanics that I am really sad that John Wick does not apply to his other games. Like I am so sad that he didn't put it in 7th C, second edition. It was such a good system that he came up with, and I'm surprised other systems don't do something really similar. Like the idea of like, oh, you roll like based on your attribute and your skill, you roll like 6 dice, but then you keep 3 of them. You keep the 3 highest. Like I think that, oh man, so good, so good. And then there's Microscope. Microscope is not really a game. Not really. It is a collaborative tabletop world building system. And it's just a really good tool. That's why I included it. I gotta include it. And I like to use it for more generic systems, like Fate or Savage Worlds, and use that for building the world collaboratively with the group. So in session 0, rather than starting with making characters or whatever, I will start with a round of Microscope. And for that, we'll start and we'll lay down like, okay, what like genre do we want to play in? Yeah, do we want to do sci-fi? Do we want to do high fantasy, low fantasy, urban fantasy, a detective game, whatever. And from there, then the first round, depending on how you want to play it, I usually do a vote system for the early rounds where we'll go around the table and we'll do like, okay, beginning and end. Like, where is the beginning of our history and where's the end of our history? And so then I'll have everybody kind of put ideas together and submit them, and then everybody can kind of vote on whose idea they like the best. And yeah, that'll be like beginning and end. And then as I go around the table, I'll discard the vote system, and now it's like, okay, and now everybody, throw in your cards for what for like major historical events, wars, foundations of civilization, um, defining technology development, things like that. And gradually, as you go along, you get narrow and narrower in your scope of what you're writing for the history. So, whereas it could start off with, how did the universe begin? But then by the final round, you're talking about like the actions of some historical figure in a historical war from like 300 years ago. And you go around and around and around the table until basically until you're done. Like I kind of discard the rules of Microscope a bit. We just kind of end it when we're like, yeah, that's good enough now. And I think it's a really, really good tool that every good GM should like kind of keep in their bag of tools. Yeah, so it's just a all around really good addition to tabletop role playing. And next up is Nova Praxis. Nova Praxis, I would not be surprised if nobody watching this has ever heard of it. It is not a very popular game. It never like really reached popularity. I think the subreddit for it still has the nice number of members, 69 members. And I think like what I actually really like about the game, it would be its own category. It's just presentation, because Nova Praxis released as an augmented PDF. So all throughout the PDF, there's all these buried links. Like there's links all along the side to all the different chapters, and each chapter has like at the bottom of the chapter page, there's like all these links to different paragraphs within the chapter, and so it's just really easy to navigate. It's like basically 2 clicks to get anywhere you need to go, like from any page, really. Um, yeah, it's super easy to navigate, and that for its time was real ingenious because this is a game that's been around for, I want to say 2012, 2013 is when it released. Yeah, so it's been around for 12, 13 years now. And yeah, so for its time, like real, they put a lot of work into like setting up the augmented PDF. A lot of work went into it, so that was real good. Um, for the system, I mean, it's basically just a slightly older, clunkier Fate system. So I mean, it's fine. Um, I think the a lot of the complaints, and I kind of agree, is some of the stunts are just kind of like badly worded, and like the leveling system like is almost non-existent. Like, Um, but what I guess if I'm going to throw it into a category, it's definitely going to be setting. It's similar to Eclipse Phase in that it's like a reasonably near far future kind of transhumanist gallivanting around the solar system. Like it's more of a dystopia. Like you're playing kind of like the scumbags, like the low lives of the of the setting. Um, and also it's kind of like post scarcity, so there's not really a currency system. It's more like a social credit score almost, where it's based on reputation as to like what you can get. I kind of like my far future dystopias to be running with cold hard cash, but that's me. uh, um but no, I'd say Nova Praxis, what I like most about it is going to be the setting. If I'm going to throw it in any of these, and not a presentation, yeah. And Numenera, I was an early adopter of Numenera. As soon as I heard that Monty Cook was coming out with a new game, and it was set a billion years in the future, and it was basically the dying Earth kind of era, but with Clark Tech, I was like, I'm in. Sold. Uh, give me all your stock. I bought basically everything that came out for Numenera in like the early wave. And Monty Cook is, of course, one of the creators of Dungeons and Dragons third and I believe 3.5. And yeah, Numenera is set a billion years in the future on Earth, and it's the ninth world. So this is the ninth time civilization is rising. So the native technology is about like medieval, post medieval, like a little bit into the Renaissance, with a world filled with Clark tech. And so Arthur C. Clarke's any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So you have all these devices all over the world that are, say, buried in ruins and whatnot from collapsed civilizations of the past, where it's basically just a magic item, a one use or a limited use magic item. They're called ciphers in the game. And it could be anything. It could be, a shorted battery that when you like twist it and short it out, you turn it into like a grenade, essentially. So it's that like it's all technology that's super advanced, so you have no idea what most of it does, but you can get an idea of the effects. It's that I don't know how it works, I know what it does kind of mentality. And so the world itself is crazy. Like, there's all sorts of weird parts of the world. You can see where there's been like geoengineering product projects. There's like one of the mountain ranges has like a perfectly straight, like carved out line through it, to where it's basically passing straight through the mountains. From some, like the last civilization just was like, nope, we're making a straight line right here. Uh, and there's like genetically engineered creatures and pets, and there's let's see, nanomachine swarms that are basically an environmental hazard. They'll gray goo anything they touch. It's a wild world. It's mechanically it's very similar to Dungeons and Dragons, but it's got a lot of additional stuff, or stuff that's been modified. Like it adds the rest system, short rest type system, and the attributes have been really dumbed down. But it's kind of like a modified D20 that I think he did a really good job at it. I'm not the biggest fan of the D20 system. Again, not a fan of flat distribution systems, but still, I mean, setting is incredible, but on top of that, mechanically it's reasonably sound. It's very easy to pick up if you've ever played D20. You're like, okay, well, these are the new attributes. We're not doing hit points. We're doing wound tracking and all that, and it's a fun game. It's a wild system. It's an all around really good game. Ooh, had to cough there. Paranoia. How I love you, you insane, weird, giant train wreck of absolute hilarity. Uh, Paranoia is set in Alpha Complex, which is kind of based on 1970s dystopian sci-fi, like the idea of, oh, the next civilization is going to grow up living in nuclear bunkers, and things like Logan's Run or like THX 1138 are examples of stuff that it kind of like borrows from. But Alpha Complex is run by Friend Computer. Friend Computer is the absolute dictator of Alpha Complex. Aside from the people who run Friend Computer, the ultraviolets, the programmers, the high programmers. Um, Friend Computer is insane because Friend Computer's brain has been eaten. At least part of it. His brain and his memory have been eaten by bugs, literal bugs, giant ants. They broke in and devoured parts of his memory. So, Friend Computer does not know how long we've been underground. Um, Friend Computer just knows there are enemies everywhere. Uh, like I said, Friend Computer is insane. And you take on the role in the default game, like the default setting, as troubleshooters, which means you go out, you find trouble, and you shoot it. That's that is your job. um, it is absolutely batshit crazy, and as a game master, it's an amazing game to run because you can go all out in trying to TPK your party, and everybody's still gonna have a good time. It's hilarious. You as a troubleshooter, you will meet a grisly fate. You're not going to die in your sleep. You're going to die, you know, being turned into a quarter-mile long blood smear by like a malfunctioning floor sweeper, or you're going to fall off of a faulty catwalk and get impaled by like a piece of like rebar or metal, or you're going to have a mishap where you shoot a pipe that turns out to be some super acid. It's it is ridiculous and fun, and oh man, it is an absolute blast to play. Yeah, it's a blast to play, it's a blast to run. God, Paranoia is so great. Oh, Rifts, you mad genius, weird thing. God. Okay. So, the best description I've ever heard of Rifts, which is so fitting, is Kevin Symbieta went to a bunch of sixth grade boys and said, "Let me see your Trapper Keeper," and then just put whatever they drew on the cover into the game. There's dragons, there's robots, there's giant skull walkers, there's ninjas, there's psychics, there's wizards, there's dogmen, there's superhuman super athletes. Just like it's mad how much weird, and that's just in the core rule book. Like there's the glitter boys, they're pilots of glitter boy mechs, which are like these like shiny like glittery mechs. Like they it's made for deflecting lasers. They have like mirror coatings, um, and so they basically like deflect lasers. Um, there's laser beams. This guy's a ley line walker. And it looks like he's opening a rift or a portal to bring in some kind of monster. Although I thought that was what was the name of the summoner class? OCC, occupational character class. Um, there's all sorts of weird. There's occupational character class. There's racial character classes. There's all sorts of stuff. Uh, oh, the rules. The rules are maddening for the game. There are so many charts and tables. Character creation takes like 4 hours. It is batshit insane. Even if you absolutely knew what you were doing, I don't think you could roll a character in Rifts in under an hour. Like if you knew, okay, I want to play this class, I want to play I want to get this stuff, and all this, and just rolling everything and looking at all the charts and tables and cross-referencing shit. I don't think you could without some sort of like external tool or program make a character in Rifts in under an hour. It is batshit crazy. I think I played one campaign of this, and I ran a campaign of this. I think when I played a campaign, my character I think took 4 hours to roll up. It was ridiculous. By the time we hit the end, we were like, we're not even playing today. It's like we've spent like the last 4 hours rolling characters. It is ridiculous. I played a juicer, which is essentially like a super roided up super soldier. Like they're on all sorts of performance enhancing drugs. They have like a biomonitor that's constantly adjusting their chemical, like their hormone levels and the chemicals in their bloodstream to where they are essentially at any time they're awake, they are at peak performance, like peak Olympic level performance. And yeah, but also the core rule book was such a tragedy. I played in the old book, not the ultimate edition. The original edition. The cover had like I think he called it a Shoggoth, but I don't think it was like a Shoggoth. It's just like this giant monster that had like a big old open gaping mouth. He was surrounded like by a bunch of battle babes. Just scantily clad ladies with guns on like a floating orb thing, and it had like tentacles and weird shit. But that book was so horribly laid out. Kevin Symbieta cannot lay out a book for the life of him, because I was looking through the book and I was like, wait, like I want to get some extra like e-mags or like eclipse. I can't remember what he called it, or is like the energy weapon, like a magazine for an energy weapon, basically like a battery pack. And I was like, how much are they? And we were like looking through like ammunition, and it wasn't ammunition, and we're going through like the different weapons and all that, and it wasn't in the weapon. And then we look through, and it's like in a throwaway paragraph in the middle of the equipment section, like right near the margin, like almost buried in the margin because of how close it was when it was bound, like to the binding. We're like, oh Jesus, man! Like finally, it took us like 30-40 minutes to find it. So like it's in here. Like I've seen it. I know I've seen it. I have no idea where. Like that's the entire book. It's like I know I've seen it, I just don't know where. And so many charts, so many tables. Oh god. It is definitely a relic of old school role playing like that. Like that they loved their charts and tables in like old school role playing games. Like they wanted like to be referencing complex, like make it as complex and granular as possible. Oh, but Rifts is just a blast. It is an absolute blast of fun. Like mechanically, it is a train wreck, but just like the absolute wild shit you can get into. Like you can play, uh, you could play like a RoboCop and a Dog Boy, like literally like a RoboCop and a Dog Boy, going around fighting crime, or hunting down rogue psionics, or like I don't know, fighting like actual ninja turtles. Like you could play like you could be fighting like mutant animals that are ninjas, like actual ninja turtles. It's insane. Oh, oh, hold on, 1 sec. Um, did I kick my monitor? Yeah, I kicked my monitor thing. All right, and I'm back. And RuneQuest, yeah, RuneQuest. I can't say I play RuneQuest by the book because RuneQuest by the book is another one of those like granular nightmares. It's like Dungeons and Dragons came out and everyone went, "I want to make D&D but better." And by better they meant more complicated. Uh cuz like it uses like I know there's been a few additions, and I think the dice system has changed depending on who owns it, but it's always got like hit locations for like player limbs and stuff, and like individual hit points for limbs and all that. I just stripped that all out, and I'm like, add it all up. That's how many hit points you have. I'm not doing that. Like we are not going through hit locations at like 2 in the morning after you've been drinking beer all night. No, that ain't happening. Um, but yeah, now that the world of Glorantha is it's like wacky, wild, and like the the guys who made it, they just grab from everything. They did like there are literally like Donald Duck creatures. They're literally anthropomorphic ducks, and they're based on Donald Duck. And then there's like like spider cults and like take like they took like some of the stuff from like the Conan setting and just all sorts of shit from like all over like sword and sorcery and fantasy and all these genres and just put it in the game. Glorantha is a glorious mess. It is watching a train wreck that is somehow beautiful. The setting is amazing. So the system is just a train wreck. It is a brutal car accident, but the setting is a beautiful nightmare. Oh man. All right, Savage Worlds. Savage Worlds I am throwing into all around good because just like Fate, it's a reasonably simple system. It is open ended to all sorts of different genres of play, so you're not stuck with one particular setting or one particular genre of gameplay. You're not playing Pathfinder where it's just Tolkienian fantasy, or you're not playing D&D where it's just Tolkienian fantasy or not Tolkienian fantasy. It's Tolkienian fantasy, but they change up the world a bit. Well, yeah, you can do like Atom Punk, Alien Invasion, Weird West, all just any genre. You could do all sorts of stuff. I actually do have the Savage Rifts books where they took Savage World or they took Rifts and they put it in the Savage World rule set. It's great. It's how I play Rifts now. Like it's just so much easier. So much easier. Yeah. Okay, Shadowrun. Shadowrun, you were my childhood. I loved FASA. FASA was my childhood. You know, Shadowrun, Earth Dawn, Crimson Skies, BattleTech. I played them all. I love the old FASA games. They were laid out poorly. They were mechanically a little bit clunky, but they were such good games. Shadowrun, absolutely incredible game setting. The setting's great. The rule mechanics are decent enough. It's a fun game to play. I like that it's not class based. It's a little bit more open ended for how you want to like develop your character. And you can play it serious. You can play it slapstick. It all fits within the setting. You know, you could be doing like a serious campaign about like infiltrating some like megacorp's arcology and spending months trying to infiltrate it and gather intel just to get out a piece, just like steal a piece of technology or whatever. Or you could play slapstick comedy. You're going to the bar when all of a sudden like some gang war starts in the street out in front of you, and then like you get roped into it or somebody thinks you're a part of it, and so now you're like running from the cops because or not the cops because Lone Star. You're running from Lone Star because they were like a platinum member or something, and Lone Star is now trying to track you down, and you got to run away. And like along the way you get like sidetracked into like a heist or like the for like a bag of real coffee. like like just all sorts of like weird hijinks, and you can play it straight, you can play it comedic. It all works. Great system. It's just a fun game to play. I wish I could get more people roped into playing Shadowrun, but man, it's like every game I get invited to anymore, it's like, hey, you want to play D&D with us? Like, no, I'm tired of Dungeons and Dragons. I played it for so long. Uh, I played it all growing up, and God, I like. I don't. I'm not like a D&D hater because it's popular. It's just I played it for so long, and I played so many different campaigns. I've played in a bunch of people's campaigns. I've ran a ton of campaigns. I just mechanically, I don't really care for it. It's so bland for a game, and there's so many better games out there. Please expand your horizons. Do yourself a favor. Pick up like if you want some like cheap stuff, pick up Fate, pick up Savage Worlds, pick up Fiasco, pick up Dread, um, and like have some fun, man. Um, Traveler. Oh man, it's another one my uncle got me into because when my uncle was getting me into like role playing games, we played Traveler, we played like D&D like second edition, and yeah, I played under Thaco, I played 2E. Oh, so many charts and tables. God. Uh, oh man, Traveler is another one of those games that still has its feet firmly in its roots. Traveler is a very old role playing game. It is one of the original. It started in the late 70s with the old school Traveler, and so it's definitely still has some relics from that in there. There are so many charts. So many charts. Like rolling up a character takes a while. Mechanically, it's okay. It's been modernized, it's been updated, but it's fine. Um, the setting is it's decent enough. You have that mix of like high technology, low tech, social stratification. So, like, depending on what style of game you want to play, you can be like in the highest tech, deep in the Imperium worlds, the third Imperium, the third Empire. You could be deep in their worlds and, have high technology all around you. Or you could be on some like low tech backwater where you're like, it's like, you could be playing as like low tech backwater mailmen where you're just going planet to planet, dropping off mail for like planets that may have not seen outside contact for like 30 years. And you're dropping off like mail and packages for people who have been like dead for 10 years or whatever. Or you could be like playing on a world that you're basically at like garbage scow planet where like you crash land on that world, and then like your campaign is like gathering the materials and bartering for materials to fix your junker spaceship. And like, maybe it's ruled by, some like do like the Star Wars, it's ruled by like uh a gang organization, like organized crime, the equivalent of the Huts or whatever. And yeah, like you could do all sorts of things in Traveler, anything from high tech to low tech, space travel, futuristic, sci-fi. You can do all that in Traveler. Great setting. Mechanically, it's okay. Unfortunately, you can no longer die during character creation. That was a thing back in the old days. Yes, you could actually. Traveler is a game where your character could die before session one. Yeah, yeah, your character creation is entirely randomized, and some of the injuries that you could receive for if you rolled badly enough, like you have to basically do like roll like the worst roll like 2 3 times in a row to die in character creation, but it can happen. So mechanically it's all right. It's pretty fun. Like I'd say all around Traveler is pretty good. Mechanically it's all right. Like the mechanics are probably the worst part of it. I'd put it on par with Shadowrun. Yeah, yeah, I'd put it on par with Shadowrun. But yeah, again, these have been my objectively correct opinions. Once again, you are free to disagree, but you are wrong. I'll get you on the next one. Peace.